Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Monday Movie Pickup. Quite the epic intro. I'm going to talk about right away my Meet the Parents, the whole Focker collection, which I just did a review of Meet the Parents, and even though I praised the movie, called it one of my favorite comedies, I actually didn't own the movie. That's why it'd probably been a few years since I had seen it. My parents owned the DVD, but I never got to owning a copy myself, so I decided to get the entire Blu-ray trilogy because I do go back to Meet the Fockers as well. I have not seen Little Fockers since I went with my family in theaters. That would be 10 years ago now, and I remember the movie being just awful. Very few funny jokes in it, but mostly awful. Like, there really was no reason they made a third one. I might return to it, but we'll have to wait on that one for quite a while. The other cool thing I have here is the Untold History of the United States. This is a documentary series that Oliver Stone, he created it and he was the narrator of. I've watched a couple of the episodes on here now, mostly the recent stuff. They go through, starting with World War II, they go through a bunch of decades, mostly through the presidencies that there's been. And I watched the later ones, starting with Reagan. I haven't gotten to the earlier ones yet, just because the stuff from the 80s and later is what really interests me. But I am going to watch the entire series eventually because it's very good. I enjoy it a lot. Oliver Stone has a very soothing voice for the kind of stuff that they talk about in this. So it's actually on Netflix. I maybe wouldn't have bought the set had I known it was on Netflix. I don't know why I didn't realize that, but it's cool to have on Blu-ray. Mandy. So I saw this in theaters and I've really wanted to see it again since. I didn't love the movie, but it had one of the coolest visual looks I've ever seen, and I'd like to go back to it again. Maybe to get a new perspective, or maybe to enjoy it even more than I did the first time, because there is a lot here to enjoy. Overall, I think it might age extremely well. If you haven't seen it before, I still recommend it just from the fact that it's so crazy. But just from the first viewing, it was visually the stuff that I liked. There was a lot of other stuff that I wasn't too into. It's a basic revenge story, but who knows? I'll rewatch it and maybe I'll love it even more. I'm still recommending it, and I don't feel like it's talked enough about. I'm surprised that it didn't get a huge cult following. I figured after seeing it that it would have had a huge cult following, like the cult hit right here, Big Trouble in Little China. I actually own this movie already, but this is the Shout Factory edition. This is actually a 2-disc set, and this movie is crazy. I love John Carpenter. He had one of the best 80s streaks. I call it, well, one of the best streaks ever. He released a movie almost every year during the 80s, and every single one of them was different from the last, but also extremely entertaining. This one is a lot of fun. I don't know if it works as well as it did back then, because there's probably some parts of it that aren't okay today, weren't okay at the time either, but really aren't. People recognize that this stuff's not okay nowadays. But I had only seen it the one time, and I loved it. I thought it was a lot of fun. A few problems with it, but man, I can't. Kurt Russell, one of the greatest, if you ask me. I have another John Carpenter film here. Starman has Jeff Bridges in it. I've never seen this one. I haven't heard this one talked about too much, but it was a Shout Factory set, and I figured I'd give it a buy. A lot of these Shout Factory sets were at Walmart for pretty good price. I never realized that Shout Factory had deals with Walmart to sell their movies, but there was some pretty good stuff that was for a lower price than the Shout Factory website. Another one is Roadhouse, which I believe this is actually out of print now. It was at Walmart, and I've never seen Roadhouse, but I've heard a lot of people talk about it. I hear that it's extremely out there for the kind of material that's in it. It's one of those movies that people like it, but I hear it's not actually very good. It's one of those movies that people like to go back to because it's cheesy, it's fun. This is another 2-disc set though, so Shout Factory definitely put a lot of effort into this set, and I'm excited to finally give it a watch. I mean, Patrick Swayze, I liked him in Dirty Dancing, so he's got to be good here. Not the only Patrick Swayze movie I bought. The Outsiders. This is the Francis Ford Coppola film that I feel like everyone has seen as far as my friends go. I've never seen it. So I, for some reason, thought this was a really long movie, but it's under 2 hours. I thought this was like a long, almost 3-hour movie that was split into 2 parts. I don't know where I built all this, but it's not. It's a shorter movie, and Francis Ford Coppola. I definitely want to give this a watch. I've never read the book. I'm sure a lot of people who have seen it have never read the book, but I hear people talk about it all the time. And then, of course, last but not least, The Mummy with Tom Cruise, which was not very good, was quite stupid at times, but I figured I should finish the Mummy collection that I have. I have the Mummy that they made in the 30s that Universal made. I have the ones that they made in the 90s. I own this one now. I even own the first one that they made with Hammer Horror. I gotta get the other sequels that have been released separately by Shout Factory, but man, this was gonna kickstart the whole Universal Monster franchise, which I was really excited about. It's too bad that this movie wasn't very good. This was their first real serious attempt to make the universe. There had been other movies before, like Dracula Untold. They made a Wolfman movie a couple years ago. They've been trying to remake them, and now they've done The Invisible Man, which did very well at the box office, got great reviews. Sounds like that director is now going to take on a different Universal Monster movie. I forget which one it was exactly, but I think they might be working with Blumhouse now to make the series happen for sure. Maybe not the Dark Universe, maybe not in the kind of... It felt like the Avengers watching this, if that makes any sense. Like they were trying very hard to be like the Avengers, which I don't know how that was going to play out in the end once they finally made a movie that had all the monsters together in the style of Horror of Dracula, Horror of Frankenstein. But I'm glad that, you know, that this is not the route that they're going with anymore. Now they're going to do The Invisible Man and maybe make the films a little more separate from one another, and then maybe eventually have them all meet up. I don't know. I still think it's a little tough to do that, but who knows? Maybe they can make it work with Blumhouse, and I'm a Universal Monster fan. I would love to see them reboot all the monsters, bring them back for the new age. That's everything I bought this week, so if I buy anything next week, I'll let you know. Thanks for watching. I don't know why I saluted.
Thanks for watching the video, and special shout out to Anthony, Anna, Kirsten, Lucas, Ryan, and Robert for the support on Patreon. By joining my Patreon, you can get exclusive videos and blogs, and for only $7, you can request your own movie review. I hope you stick around, cinephile, and have a happy, productive day.